Welcome to the last lesson for this subject, Understanding the Self. Now, for every psychology class, there is one topic that every student must learn, and this is the theories made by Simon Freud because he is considered as the father of psychology. Now, in his theory of psychosexual development, this talks about the development of the psychosexual of a person from the early stages up to he is an adult. So, psycho refers to the psyche, the mind, and sexual refers to, according to Simon Freud, is libido. So, as we grow up, we pass five critical phases. Our sexual drive, or as what he calls it, libido, are focused on different erogenous zones in each phase. First phase is the oral phase. From 0 to 1 year old, 1 years, 1 years old, 1 year old. So the main pleasures in this stage come from sucking our mother's breast or our bottle. So for if a child does not attain pleasure in this stage, he will develop a oral fixation. So here are three instances or situations. First is reared by mother. So if a child is if the child's libido is being met, so he will grow up as an independent person. But if he breastfeeding is stopped too early, he will develop an oral fixation. So yung parang uh, may parang sense of um, unfulfillment yung kanyang oral pleasure. So um, this is compensated by chewing gum or smoking. Well, there are plenty of what we call this um, ways to compensate for that oral fixation, such as what we call this biting your thumbnails or biting some objects, ball pen. So parang ganun na nga. So according to Simon Freud, if you were if you have an attitude like that, even if you are already mature, you might have experienced a unsatisfaction in the oral phase. So, it's possible na hindi ka pinadede yung, ng tama ng mama mo. So, third is never experience breastfeeding. So, you would likely develop a manipulative and addictive personality. Next phase is the anal phase, from ages 1 to 3. Primary focus of our libido or our sexual desire of the mind is our bladder and bowel movement. So, yung pag-ihi at saka pagpupo. So, here are three situations again. If during this stage, he is praised and yung binigyan siya ng kanyang, what you call this, hindi siya minamadali, then he is going to have a competent personality. He maintains a good and balanced relationship with authority. Pero pag pinilit siya, yung pag-training, tapos pag nakamali, meron ring punishment, anal retentive personality. So, over-controlling and stingy adult, disgusted with himself, has a tendency to obey authority. Yung kapag pinilit. Pero kapag walang training galing sa parents, anal expulsive personality. So messy and disorganized and inconsiderate of other people's feelings and rebellious towards authority. Okay? Next phase is the phallic phase, 3 to 6 years old. Focuses on the genitals. We discover the differences between male and female. So if the father is present during these ages 3 to 6, when the child grows up, he takes on the role of a father and respects both gender. Pero kapag wala yung father, he develops a mother fixation, fails to develop manhood, aggressive towards women, and tends to compete with other men. Now, this does not only focus on the father, but also on the mother. So kapag present yung mother, yung babae will take on the role of a mother and respects both gender. Kapag absent yung mother, so parang ano, magkaroon siya ng father fixation. Okay? Next phase is the latency phase, 7 to 13 years old. Libido is suppressed. So, yung ating yung yung goal or yung drive natin sa paghanap ng what gives us pleasure is suppressed. Blind into developing life skills. So, mapupunta yung ating attention sa pag-create ng pag-develop ng mga life skills. For instance, like being a musician, playing basketball, yung mag-aral, yung ganon. So, wala masyadong ano dito, um, effect. It's just kung ano yung ma-develop mo, it will be useful in the later stages of your life. Okay? Lastly is the genital phase from puberty to death. So, interest in sexual partners. Balancing id, ego, and superego. In this stage, id refers to sexual desires, superego obeying social norms, and ego compromising id and superego. So, about id, ego, and superego, this is in the topic of psychoanalytics, analysis rather, by same Simon Freud. So, we still are going to discuss it after this topic. So, in this phase, genital phase, yung ating libido focuses on finding a good sexual partner. Okay? So, here are three situations pa rin. Kapag wala masyadong trauma yung kanyang sex dito sa stage na to, genital phase, he will succeed in building a strong ego, disciplined at work, loving, um, has a loving relationship, and a fulfilled sex life. So, kapag wala masyadong mga heartaches, yung mga problema, so, maganda yung kanyang pagdala in the future. Okay? So, kapag weaker yung ego, stronger yung superego, he obeys authority, suppresses desires, which leads to perversion. Okay. So, kung ano yung kapag malakas yung superego niya, superego is the conscience principle, he tends to follow the rules strictly, sacrificing his pleasures, kung ano yung gusto niya. So, for instance, meron siyang gustong gawin, pero since nakita niya na takot siya na mm, magiging masama yung tingin ng society sa kanya, so he will not proceed with it. Okay? Kasi mas stronger yung superego niya kesa sa ego niya. Kapag weak yung ego, tapos weak yung superego, sexual needs are more important than social needs and people's feelings. So, nagiging egoistic siya. Yung sarili niya ang kanyang inuuna. Wala siyang consideration sa iba at sa mga laws of the society or even the norms of the society. So, sarili niya ang kanyang iniisip. Now, in order to fully understand this, in the next topic, we're going to discuss about the id, ego, and superego para maintindihan natin kung ano itong genital phase. Okay? Now, tungkol naman sa psychosexual development, if our experiences in each phase is traumatic, we might develop fixations later in life, such as neurosis, dependencies, addiction, or depression. Okay, so this is the main theory of Simon Freud. Na kapag sinabi niya na kapag meron kang stage dito sa 5 stages na may traumatic event ka, your fixations your unusual, what we call this, yung, yung behavior mo is because is explained, or the cause of your behavior physicians is because of the traumatic experience of that phase. Okay? So, kapag meron pa kayong hindi talaga masyadong maintindihan kasi yung exam natin will revolve in these topics. Now, the psychoanalytic theory states that human behavior is the result of the interactions among three component parts of the mind: the id, ego, and superego. So, yung behavior pala natin, kung ano yung galaw natin, yung pag-iisip natin, mga decisions and actions and everything, is the result of the interactions among three component parts. Three parts or three actors of our psyche or our mind: the id, ego, and superego. So first, the id. Id acts according to pleasure principle. It is a psychic force oriented to immediate gratification of impulse and desire. So id is unconscious, it is irrational. So if a person only has id, kung ano yung gusto niya, dapat makuha niya agad in in any way, kahit sa anong paraan, para lang ma-fulfill yung gratification niya, yung pleasure. So, ano ba yung pwedeng example natin dito? Yung tao na, ano, yung, ah, ano ba yun? Um, Mentally challenged. So, kadalasan sa kanila is wala silang pake sa laws of the society and wala din silang pake sa feelings ng ibang tao. So, kung ano yung gusto nila, kukunin lang nila yon. Okay? Wala silang pake. So, yan, kung id lang ang meron yung tao. That is according to Simon Freud, na we have three components of our psyche. And it is irrational. It is unconscious. So, hindi natin alam kung bakit, yeah, kung bakit mm, ganun yung mga actions natin. Next is the ego. It is the reality principle. So, it is based on the reality. Kung merong gusto yung id, of course, is it, is it rational to just get the properties of other people? No. According to him, it is conscious. So, alam natin. It is rational, logical. It is the moderator between id and superego. Ito yung nagmo-moderate. Para siyang judge. Para siyang driver. Okay? Delayed gratification. So, opposite din siya sa, sa id. Kasi yung id dapat immediate gratification. Dapat makuha niya agad yung anong gusto niya. Dito sa ego, parang it doesn't matter kung when. As long as ma-fulfill yung desires ng id, it doesn't matter when, at saka, ano, based in reality setting. Okay? It is rational. It is the decision maker of our behavior. Next is the superego. It is the morality principle. It is both unconscious and conscious. Kasi, yung morality natin, um, partly is based on, what you call this, how we were raised, or kung saan tayo pinalaki. Yung, it, yung sa culture, yung mga norms, and then, yung sa conscious is kung ano yung mga ano ngayon, kung ano yung accepted ngayon. It talks about the law, okay? So, superego ensures that um, we behave on the ideals of the society, how we ought to behave. It is the conscience, perfect and civilized. Okay, now, the role this tree plays is yung id is parang devil, yung superego is parang angel, at saka yung ego is ikaw na tao. May gusto yung id mo. Let's say, for instance, gusto niyang yumaman. So, agad-agad. Kasi 'di ba immediate gratification, dapat agad-agad. Pero sabi ng superego, "Oops, bawal yung gusto mo kasi how are you going to what you call this? How are you going to achieve what you want?" Of course, wala nang ibang paraan kundi sa pagnanakaw. Kasi immediate gratification. So, yung superego will 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 be the balance of the id kung ano yung mga gusto mo. So, sasabihin ng superego na, "Oops, bawal yan kasi baka makulong tayo." Mm. Tapos, eto naman yung superego, eto siya yung who will try to compromise the id and superego. Compromise meaning yung maghahanap siya ng yung middle line. So, he will try um, to achieve what the id wants, and also he will also want it will also try to achieve what the super ego wants. So kung ano yung gusto ng id, which is yumaman, dapat yung gagawin mo kapag napagdesisyonan na ng ego kung ano yung mga dapat gawin mo, the the wants of the super ego should take account. Dapat kasali yun sa desisyon kung ano yung desisyon mo. Okay? So parang ano sila, parang scale lang. Ikaw yung sa gitna, etong id is yung demonyo, super ego is the angel. Well, that is the old projection between the two, angel and devil. But basically, walang right and wrong yan. It's all about the kung ano yung um, implication sa ego. So, overly dominant id might become impulsive, controllable, or even criminal. So, kapag mas powerful yung id mo na yan nang malupigan ang imong super ego, so it could be nga magiging impulsive, uncontrollable, or even criminal. Kapag overly dominant naman yung super ego mo, it might lead to a personality that is extremely moralistic and judgmental. Okay? It will it will stick to the laws na walang considerations. Tapos yung mga tao na naka nakagawa, who made actions or show behavior na against sa norms and the laws of the society, automatic yung judgment. Next is excessively dominant ego. Might be so tied to reality, rules, and appropriateness, unable to engage in any type of spontaneous or unexpected behavior. So, eto yung mga tao na boring. Okay? Yung walang yung nakaplano talaga lahat yung gagawin. Okay? So, in order to be a what we call this, a law-abiding citizen that is that has a fulfilling life, dapat balanse yung lahat. Balanse talaga. Hindi pwedeng meron mag-dominate. Okay. Defense mechanisms employed by ego to help reduce feelings of anxiety and guilt. Okay, kapag hindi na what we call this, na fulfill yung gusto ng ego, the ego will give a feeling of anxiety towards the ego. So, para hindi ma-feel yung ng ego, yung anxiety, syempre, meron din siyang defense mechanism. And hindi lang yon, pati din naman yung superego. Kapag hindi na, hindi na-comply sa, what we call this, yung gusto ng superego will give a feeling of guilt. So, para hindi ka maging guilty, meron kang defense mechanism din. Okay? And these are 8. First is repression. Suppressing painful memories and thoughts. So, kapag meron kang, let's say, a sad memory, ano, isusuppress mo. If there are signs that you will start to remember, you will try to forget it. Defense mechanism yan para maprotektahan yung sarili mo, yung ego mo. Next is denial, refusing to accept real events because they are unpleasant. So, hindi ito sa pag-suppress, kundi pag-deny talaga. So, wala. Walang nangyari. Di ba nakauyaban mo? Wala eh. Wala. So, that is one. Defense mechanism yun para ma-protected yung ano, ego mo. So, next is projection. Attributing unacceptable desires to others. So, for example, mm, you are cheating. Meron kang nililigawan or meron kang ibang boyfriend or girlfriend kasi malayo kayo. So, what you are going to, to tell yourself is that, kuan, lagyo man mi, na basig siya, naapugani siya dito. So, it protects the ego. Kasi it gives a sense, a feeling of guilt. Okay? In order to, what we call this, to not feel guilty, you're going to project. Next is rationalization, justifying behaviors by substituting acceptable reasons for less acceptable reasons. So, good example dito is yung sa school. Let's say, in order to avoid feelings of anxiety kasi maliit yung grade mo, you're going to say na, wala, sakto akong answer, pero wala, girungan ni sir, kaya nasayop si sir. Si sir mo, hindi kabalo. Parang ganon. So, I'm not saying that teachers are right all the time, but, if what I'm saying is, hindi naman all the time tama yung estudyante. So, isang defense mechanism yung yung pag-justify ng ng result ng quiz mo. That is rationalization. Hindi yon denial. Okay? Next is displacements. Very common. Let's say, galit si teacher sa bahay. Pagdating sa school, doon ibubuhos yung galit sa mga estudyante. So, transferring inappropriate urges or behaviors onto a more acceptable or less threatening target. So, that's an example. Pwede din sa pets niya, sa anak niya. Let's say, pinagalitan siya sa trabaho, pero hindi niya pwedeng, hindi siya pwedeng kumanti sa boss niya. So, it gives a feeling of anxiety. So, in order to protect the ego, na kailangan niyang ipalabas yon. So, next is reaction formation, reducing anxiety by adopting beliefs contrary to your own beliefs. Okay, for instance, mm, kahit, ah, oh, ano ba to? Okay, kapag ang isang tao ay being raised in a different culture, tapos nalagay siya sa isang culture na napipilitan siyang tanggapin yon. So, he is or she is going to accept the beliefs para ano na lang, para to protect his ego from being, let's say, uncomfortable or being from experiencing a feeling of what we call this unbelongingness, yung parang OP siya. So, another example would be that kapag may galit siya sa isang tao, so instead of tuloy-tuloy yung galit niya, so magpapakita siya ng sobrang friendly na attitude towards that person. Para ano, para to release that anxiety sa kanyang dibdib. Okay? Next is regression. Returning to coping strategies for less mature stages of development. So, for instance, hmm, ano kaya? Eto. For example, nakahiwalay kayo ng shota mo. So, iiyak ka, matutulog ka, you're going to look for your favorite thing or pillow or teddy bear kaya. So, coping strategies for less mature stages of development. So, babalik ka, returning to coping strategies. What gave you, kung ano yung mga behaviors na nakapag-heal sa'yo dati sa isang traumatic experience. So, ganun yun. So, babalik ka doon in order to protect yourself, okay? I think we can consider a good example of this is yung pag-iinom. Let's say, kapag meron kang, what we call this, situation or experience na kung saan yung nag-iinom kayo, pasayahin kayo. So, kapag dumating yung experience na sobrang sad ka, so you will try to go back to that time, you will regress. Okay? Parang opposite siya ng progress. Okay, sublimation, redirecting unacceptable desires through socially acceptable channels. So, a good example of this is kung, let's say, for example, nanakawan ka, nanakawan ka at yung parents mo is namatay out of cancer. So, para yung defense mechanism ng pagnanakaw mo is pwede kang gumawa ng you're going to help with the apprehension of other theft and robberies. So, paano ba yan? Pwede kang lumapit sa police. You will provide voluntary activities. You want to be a volunteer para mahuli yung ibang ano. And tungkol naman sa situation na ano, namatay yung parents mo dahil sa cancer, you can start a community para to help other people cope, yung mga people na namatayan din ng parents out of cancer. So that is sublimation. Okay, so I guess that is all. So, backtrack muna tayo, okay? Psychosexual development, oral phase, reared by mother, anal phase, id ego, superego, okay, defense mechanisms. The purpose is to protect the ego from feelings of guilt and anxiety. Okay, so I think that's it. So, good luck for the examinations, and I will not make it hard. Okay, so see you next semester. God bless.